Hi everyone and welcome to this new video. I'm finally back after more than a month and I am also returning to my Commonplace book. It feels a little strange because I left it aside for a while. At first I felt guilty, but I had so many things going on and then I decided to let go of that guilty because I simply had other priorities. So here I am again. This was my first spread, inspired by Ophelia and the paintings that portray her, and I absolutely loved making it. There is a video too. This was my second spread dedicated to the so-called immortal jellyfish, and now we're moving on to the third one. Today I want to talk about Monet and his obsession, or maybe I can say his devotion, which stayed with him throughout the last 43 years of his life. As always, I sketched the layout in pencil beforehand, and now we are going to put it together. I think most of you have seen Monet's Water Lilies series at least once in your life, along with the garden that inspired it and his deep love for Japan. He devoted the last 43 years of his life to this subject, but we'll come back to that in a moment. I printed the photos and sketched the main title in pencil, and now it's time to glue everything down. And I hopefully my glue stick will cooperate because it's almost empty, so fingers crossed. As you can see, I glued everything down so the text will line up with the pencil guidelines, and this is how the layout looks so far. Now let's add the border together because I like everything to feel neat and balanced. And I'll be using here my favorite pen, the Sakura Pigma Micron 01. It has a very fine tip, but it still creates a nice defined line with just the right amount of pressure. And now I'm going to outline all the sections. At this point, I'm erasing the pencil guidelines. And oh my god, there is something that has slipped out of my notebook. Is a pressed flower, and it's beautiful. I had completely forgotten it was there. But maybe it was meant to happen because I had pressed and saved all of these beautiful flowers. As you can see, uh, they are hydrangeas and they're from my friend's wedding at the end of June. I picked a few blooms to keep as a memory because I've always loved doing that. And if you also follow me on Instagram or you are part of my snail mail club, you probably know that I always include a little pressed flower in the letters I send to my members. So it felt like a little sign and I wanted to include it in this spread. It also feels especially fitting because Monet loved flowers. He was an avid gardener, and his famous water lilies were the result of an experiment in which white water lilies were crossbred with tropical varieties. And here I'm using some of the stickers you can find in my shop. I had a little printing issue with these, not exactly an issue because it was intentional. I wanted the background to look transparent, but in practice the stickers don't peel off very easily. In the end, though, I found a way around it, and honestly, I think it looks so cool. It almost looks like a real paperclip because you can still see the background through it. And here I also found another pressed flower that matches the hydrangea really well. I can't remember its name though. If you happen to know it, let me know in the comments please, because I couldn't figure it out. This part was a little tricky because that flower was so delicate and kept breaking apart. I actually had to glue one of the petals back on, uh, while the hydrangea on the other hand was much flatter and thinner, so it was much happier becoming part of my commonplace. As always, I finished with a simple floral decoration to create little dividers across the page. And I love drawing this because I never really plan them. I just let my hand move naturally and follow my instinct. And now it's time for the lettering. For the previous two spreads, I didn't use any references, I just followed my intuition. This time, though, I picked up a little calligraphy book that my partner gave me a few years ago, and I mixed different lettering styles, choosing some letters from one alphabet and others from another, and kept the book beside me as a reference. For the lettering, I used gouache. I'm not sure if it comes across on camera because of the lighting. It almost looks orange here, but it's actually a soft pink that echoes the color of Monet Water Lilies. And I absolutely love painting letters with a brush. Since the color wouldn't really stand out here, I switched to the Winsor & Newton Designer's Gouache in white. I used it straight from the tube without diluting heat, so it will stay nice and opaque. And then I went over the remaining letters to finish the title. Here I'm using my fineliner to add a bit of depth because otherwise the lettering feels a little too flat for my taste. And this is how everything comes together. I also included a closer look at two of Monet paintings, some visual references, and a few notes about the gardens at Giverny. I decided to make this spread because I watched an episode of Ulisse, a TV who Monet was, but I had no idea that he had created the gardens at Giverny specifically so he would always have a subject to paint right outside his home. And after that, I did some research and organized my notes so I could write everything down in a way that made sense to me. Monet wasn't fascinated by water lilies simply because they symbolized purity. What truly obsessed him was light. He painted the same subject in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening, trying to capture the way light transformed it throughout the day. And there is something about that kind of dedication that really stays with me. It also made me reflect on my own work as an artist because so often I feel guilty about drawing the same subject more than once because I worried that the people who follow me on Instagram, the place where I share my artwork, might get bored. I end up thinking there is no point in painting the same thing again. And then I think about Monet, who spent 43 years returning to the same subject and created more than 250 paintings of it. So, why should I feel that way? If creating the same subject over and over again brings me joy, why shouldn't I do? In a way, it feels almost absurd not to. So, thank you, Monet. Without even knowing it, you taught me something I really needed to hear, and I hope this can help you too. I also included a quote by Monet that says, I perhaps owe having become a painter to flowers. And I don't know, making this spread genuinely moved me. I can't really explain why, but it did. Um, And that's all. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have any thoughts or questions, I'd love to read them in the comments. It always makes me happy to hear from you, whether this video inspired you or you simply want to share your own thoughts about the topic. So, thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one.